Hello together. In today's video I'm going to talk about the high interest rates on Firefish and why are they so high. And I think a lot of people are skeptical about Firefish because the interest rates are so high and that seems scammy for them. And now I want to explain my theory why are the interest rates so high on Firefish. So Firefish is a peer-to-peer credit marketplace. So it connects people which want to invest in a credit and get interest and people which want to use Bitcoin as a collateral to get access to a credit. And the interest is just made up through free market interactions. It's just supply and demand. And at the moment, it's around 10% for a normal credit. Sometimes it's 8%, sometimes even more, 12%. Depends on the credit volume and on the duration. And of course on the specific date because it is volatile, so the interest rates are changing every day. And I think the interest rate is so high because people which are into Bitcoin, they don't want to sell their Bitcoin. And I mean, that's also the name of the YouTube channel, Never Sell Your Bitcoin. And that's the philosophy a lot of Bitcoiners, because the return per year was so high in the past. In the last 8 years, it was around 50% per year. So that's a pretty high return. So that is also your opportunity cost. If you sell Bitcoin and do something with your euro, then it should compensate for these opportunity costs. So if you sell your Bitcoin to buy a boat or something like that, or a nice car, then the car has to be really fun because in the future, if Bitcoin performs really well, you could have hold the Bitcoin. So every Bitcoiner, before they are selling Bitcoin, they are really thinking about the opportunity costs which brings them, or which brings the thing which they want to buy or invest or do with the money. So the expectations of a lot of Bitcoiners is, I think, that Bitcoin will have a high return in the future as well. Maybe not 50%, but still 25 or 30%. So if they use Bitcoin as a collateral on Firefish to get a credit, instead of selling their Bitcoin to cover some costs, then the idea is, okay, I don't have, or I'm not going to sell the Bitcoin, so I don't have the opportunity costs, and I just pay the 10% interest on Firefish. So if I have a credit with a duration of 2 years and I have to pay 10% per year, and the Bitcoin during this duration appreciates in value by, for example, 40%, then I'm still 20% better because my credit cost is 10% per year, 20%. If Bitcoin appreciates by 40%, they have still had then a financial benefit of 20%. So the 10% as a high interest rate is accepted because the expectation about the returns of Bitcoin is even higher. And that's really difficult for normal people to understand. But Bitcoiner, they thought along, or the most of them, they think a lot about Bitcoin and they're really convinced about Bitcoin, and they're generally really convinced that Bitcoin will return high profits in the future because it's just so good money. It has very good characteristics like supply cap, censorship resistance, and you can send it around globally. And that's the reason. And that's really difficult for a lot of people to understand. The problem with that, of course, is that Bitcoin is really volatile. So I think a lot of people think, okay, I do a credit with a time of 2 years, with a duration of 2 years. And shortly before the loan expires, then they take a new loan and switch or just do a credit rollover. So use the new loan to pay back the old loan and then do that a few times, and so they have a more longer period. And in that period, if the average return of Bitcoin per year is higher than the interest on Firefish, then they made a financial profit. And I think that's what a lot of people are thinking about. In addition to that, there is another aspect which I call the bureaucracy costs. To get normal credits from a bank, you have often to fill out a lot of papers and submit a lot of documents. And Firefish, you just have to send your Bitcoin as a collateral, and that's it. And I think a lot of people like also that aspect, so that they save some time. In addition to that, for normal employees, where they show they have a really stable income, it's easier to get a credit. But if you're an entrepreneur or a solo freelancer with a very volatile income, it's getting more difficult to get credit. So they even get a very high interest rate. So it's even maybe from a normal bank approximately same like Firefish interest rate, or they don't even get a credit because of the volatile income. In addition to that, if you have a bad credit rating, then you have to pay an even higher interest rate in a normal bank, or you don't get a credit. So then Firefish interest seems more reasonable in that case. And I think bureaucracy, no access to credit from a normal bank, and the wish to hold Bitcoin for as long as possible. These are the three main reasons why Bitcoiners accept the relatively high interest rate on Firefish. And for a lot of investors, that's really attractive because now you can earn a high interest rate and profit from the preferences of these Bitcoiners. The thing is, at the moment, I think the investors are really hesitant because they don't know Bitcoin, they don't understand Bitcoin, and therefore they don't understand Firefish and the concept behind it. And I think if more people or more classical investors which just want to return to have a high interest rate, if they understand more Bitcoin and understand the Firefish platform more, then the interest rate will drop in the future to a more lower level. But at the moment that's not the case, because Bitcoin is a niche and Firefish is even more a niche, and the high interest rate is even making a lot of people skeptical, as I said, that it seems scammy. So if you're an investor, I would highly recommend to understand Bitcoin, to understand the Firefish platform, and then you get a good idea why the interest rate is so high, and you can decide for yourself if it's something which you want to invest in. Because I think the interest rate for short-term investments on Firefish, it's really, really better than anything at the moment on the market. And there is no classical default risk because your loan is always over collateralized with Bitcoin. So there can two cases where you have you think, oh, maybe there is a default, but it's in these cases the Bitcoin is sold to cover like your loan value. So for example, if the person who takes the credit, who takes the loan, doesn't pay back the loan, that would be default. But in this case, Firefish takes the Bitcoin and sells the Bitcoin, and you get the euro value. And you don't only get the loan, you get also the interest rate. So you lose no money. And if the collateral of the Bitcoin, if it drops sharply in value under the collateral value, or under the credit value, loan value, better said, then before it drops under this point, the Bitcoin is also taken and sold, so you don't have a default risk. So there's really no classical default risk when using Firefish. And the platform is structured that Firefish can also not scam you because they don't have access directly to the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin are sent as a collateral into a multi-sig escrow, and there's only two ways out of it. Either it goes to the person who took the credit, and that's after the person who took the credit pays the loan back, they get their collateral back. That's the normal process. Or if the person doesn't pay back the credit, then it goes to you, and you can decide if you want to receive the Bitcoin or if you want to receive euro amount. If you use your Bitcoin address on Firefish, you can set it up in the setup process, then you will receive the credit, the loan amount or the loan value in Bitcoin. And if you don't want to do that, then the Bitcoin is sent to a service provider of Firefish. They sell it to euro or to Swiss franc or to US dollar. Depends on the currency which you selected, and then you get your currency back. And it's also with USDC, so even with stablecoin, that can also be a currency. So you as a creditor, as an investor, you are always made full, so you will always receive your money. And that's really the special thing about Firefish, that there is no default risk, and there are risks, but they are more abstract. There is a platform risk, so you have to trust Firefish that they proceed exactly the way which I explained it at the moment. So if the borrower doesn't pay back the money, then you have to trust Firefish that they press the right button and send the Bitcoin back to you, or Bitcoin to you, and not back to the borrower. But at the moment, every credit, there was no single default on Firefish. So Firefish has, of course, an incentive to do the right thing because they want to attract new customers and want to make the customers happy. And I have also here more videos on this channel about the risks of Firefish, and I would highly recommend that you watch them. And I have also more video about the chances on Firefish. You should also watch them. And if you want to support the channel, use my Discount code. It's in the video description, and that would support my work, and I would really appreciate it. Thanks you for watching the video. That's no financial advice. I'm just a content creator. See you next time.